Maximum alert. Venezuela activates the Russian S-400 anti-aircraft system and puts US F-35s in check. On a day marked by regional tension and growing diplomatic friction between Caracas and Washington, the Venezuelan government announced the full activation of the Russian anti-aircraft system, 400 Triumph, one of the most advanced air defense platforms on the planet. The news. It struck like lightning on the continent's military chessboard, igniting international debate and alarms, strategic and cross-statements from both sides of the hemisphere. The announcement was made during a televised address from a military base near Maracay, where S-400 launchers, multi-frequency radars, and command vehicles were displayed in full deployment. Venezuela is entering a new era of air defense. No foreign actor will be able to violate our sovereign airspace, declared the Minister of Defense, while Russian equipment operated in simulated demonstrations for journalists and observers. The S-400, renowned for its ability to detect, track, and neutralize stealth aircraft, ballistic missiles, and hypersonic targets, was acquired by Venezuela years ago. However, its full activation had never been confirmed. The news quickly generated reactions. Within hours, military analysts began questioning whether this move was a response to the increasing U.S. air operations over the Caribbean, particularly those employing F-35 aircraft, considered the technological core of the U.S. Air Force. Unofficial sources in Washington have confirmed that reconnaissance flights and naval exercises with regional allies have increased in recent months. While the maneuvers are classified as routine, Caracas interprets the actions as direct pressure. In this context, the activation of the S-400 system does not appear to be a minor gesture, but rather a clear message of deterrence. The Russian system, renowned for its anti-stealth technology, is capable, at least in theory, of detecting aircraft designed to evade conventional radar. This has led some security experts to claim that the measure compromises the F-35s in any potential mission over Venezuelan airspace. While there is no evidence of a direct confrontation, the mere fact that the possibility is being discussed raises tensions. Meanwhile, Moscow limited itself to issuing a brief statement. Venezuela, like any sovereign nation, has the right to strengthen its defenses. However, international observers, they maintain that the presence of Russian technical advisors in Venezuelan territory could increase in the coming weeks, as part of a training and calibration program for the system. The Caribbean, a region historically sensitive to military movements, is being monitored. The OAS and several governments are concerned about the potential for increased tensions in the region. Multilateral organizations have called for restraint and dialogue, although their messages have had little impact on the firm tone of official statements. For now, the activation of the S-400 is more than just news. It's a move that reshapes the perception of air security in the region. Venezuela claims it's seeking protection. Washington insists it's observing. And the world, once again, looks to the Caribbean wondering if this is just another episode, or the prelude to a new geopolitical chapter that's only just beginning. Following Venezuela's surprise activation of the Russian S-400 anti-aircraft system, the first 48 hours have been a whirlwind of information. What began as an internal military announcement quickly spread to major analysis centers worldwide, generating a wave of technical reports, diplomatic warnings, and discussions about the system's potential impact on the region. The S-400 Triumph, designed by the Russian Federation, is considered one of the most sophisticated systems ever deployed. It can operate on multiple frequencies, simultaneously track more than 300 targets, and engage targets at ranges exceeding 350 kilometers. Its ability to challenge stealth aircraft, including the F-22 and F-35, is one of its most controversial features. The possibility of a Latin American country possessing this technology profoundly alters the strategic calculations of the hemisphere. In Caracas, the official narrative has been emphatic. "We are not seeking confrontation, we are seeking sovereignty," the president declared in a national address. However, the speech was accompanied by images showing Venezuelan operators working alongside Russian specialists calibrating 91N6E radars and 5P-85 TE-2 launchers. These scenes reinforce the perception that military cooperation between the two countries has reached a new level. For U.S. experts, the main point of concern is the S-400's coverage. Its potential range would allow Venezuela to monitor airspace extending beyond its own territory, including key international transit zones. Although this does not imply that whether the system is used offensively or not, it complicates any U.S. air operations near the Caribbean. Any F-35 entering that environment will be detected. That changes everything, a Pentagon analyst said on condition of anonymity. Meanwhile, several Latin American governments have expressed concern. Brazil and Colombia have requested additional technical reports to assess whether Venezuela's new radar range could interfere with trade routes. For their part, Cuba and Nicaragua have publicly supported the activation of the system, calling it a reaffirmation of the right to regional self-determination. Tensions have also escalated in the diplomatic arena. Washington warned it could review its air routes and military exercises. Moscow, on the other hand, praised Venezuela's determination to guarantee the stability of its airspace. What some see as a threat, others see as a strategic achievement. Meanwhile, the deployment of the S-400 has sparked intense debate about the arms race in the region. Some experts fear that this marks the beginning of a military modernization cycle in other Latin American countries, many of which had already shown interest in advanced air defense systems. The outlook remains uncertain. The only certainty is that the activation of the S-400 is not an isolated event, but a calculated move that reconfigures the geopolitical balance of the Caribbean. Venezuela has erected an unprecedented air defense shield, and the world is watching how this element silently alters the rules of the game. The third day after the activation of the Russian S-400 anti-aircraft system in Venezuela has made it clear that the move has generated not only military noise, but also political, economic, and media repercussions. The region faces a climate of moderate but growing tension, and analysts are beginning to wonder what medium-term effects this new reality might trigger. The first consequences have been seen in the skies. Several commercial airlines that fly routes near Venezuelan airspace have requested additional information about the S-400 radar calibration, fearing interference or false detections. Although the Venezuelan Ministry of Transportation stated that all systems are configured to respect civilian corridors, the warnings persist. In Washington, the activation of the S-400 has intensified the debate among those who believe it should. Diplomatic pressure on Caracas is increasing, with warnings that any aggressive move could trigger an unwanted escalation. The F-35, the flagship aircraft of U.S. air superiority, has become the focus of the discussion. Although the Pentagon maintains that its stealth technology remains current, independent experts argue that the S-400 poses a real challenge to the aircraft in close-range missions. In Venezuela, public perception is different. State media have described the activation of the S. The announcement was presented as a protective shield that puts the country on technological parity with major powers. Socially, the announcement has been used to reinforce the message of national defense, while critics warn that this military display could widen the diplomatic rift with Western allies. Neighboring countries are watching with caution. Colombia, Brazil, and the Caribbean nations have called for transparency in the use of the system, aware that a long-range radar can detect movements beyond Venezuela's borders. The debate is intensifying in regional organizations, where some are requesting regulations, while others believe Venezuela is acting within its sovereign rights. Internationally, the deployment has generated indirect economic repercussions. Companies' energy, shipping, and telecommunications companies are closely monitoring the rising tensions, fearing that any diplomatic incident could affect shipping routes, investments, or multilateral agreements. The shadow of economic uncertainty is once again looming over the Caribbean. However, beyond the pressures, statements, and warnings, the most important point is the question that now dominates the analyses. What's next? The activation of the S-400 could be the first step in a broader strengthening of Venezuelan defenses, or a one-off move designed to send a message to the world. No one knows for sure what it will entail in the long run, But everyone agrees that the Latin American landscape will be the same again. The region is at a historic juncture. A system designed to counter stealth aircraft like the F-35 is now operational in one of the hemisphere's most strategic territories. The Caribbean has once again become a battleground of geopolitical tension. And so, while the S-400 radars continue to silently rotate, the world watches, speculates, and waits. Thank you for getting this far. If you enjoy these narrative reports, please like and subscribe so you don't miss any more upcoming analyses and chapters. Your support helps us continue creating impactful and in-depth content.